Welcome to Ecclesia Principles, a biblical strategy for believers to engage in God's design for government with Ray Eppard.
Glad to have you back again today. We've been looking at Matthew 16:18, where Jesus said, "I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades or hell shall not prevail against it." We've seen how that the ecclesia was really a political assembly. It was those who were called out to vote, those who were called out to determine the policies and the regulations of the community. And in the original sense, with the Greek city-states where that term originated, they even would have the power in that situation to declare war, to appoint judges, so forth and so on. Our understanding of the word ecclesia has been so Christianized and made religious to fit our doctrine, to fit what we already believe. Jesus wasn't advocating the overthrow of civil government and the takeover of the church, a la the Holy Roman Empire. Again, as I've stated, I believe in the separation of church and state in the same way that Thomas Jefferson did. He said the First Amendment, which basically says Congress shall pass no law establishing religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That phrase, the establishment and free exercise clauses, establish the wall of separation. No church, the government is never to be beholding to any particular religious order or group. But at the same time, civil government is not to prohibit the free exercise of religion in any way from that standpoint, unless they're violating someone else's rights. But in this, I want to look at the phrase today, where Jesus said, "And the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it." Because with this, we have to understand, again, when Jesus spoke about the gates of hell, what did that mean to them? You see, what that meant in that day and time, and even further back, the gates were very much like City Hall or the government center. It was the place where community business was conducted. It's where those who had the authority to vote and to determine policy and approve things or disallow things, it took place at the gates of the city. So if you would, in Jesus saying, "On this rock I will build my ecclesia, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it," if you would, I want to use a little poetic license here. Jesus is basically saying that he's going to have his group that's going to meet at the gates. And the devil's got his group that's going to meet at the gates. And in this, the whole concept of what those leaders would do at the gates, they would make plans and they would establish policy. They would approve actions or they would disallow actions. See, if you would, Jesus was saying that what me and my followers do, what me and my ecclesia will determine to do at the gates of heaven, the gates of hell and what they're planning to do will not prevail against our plans. Their policies will not prevail against our policies. Now, at first thought, you might think, well, yeah, that's not what he's talking about. That nut's making all this stuff up. Well, go into the next verse where he says, "And I give to you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you bind on earth is bound in heaven. And whatever you loose on earth is loosed on heaven." notice that what he says is, I'm giving you the keys. I'm giving you the keys. Now, I have two adult sons, and sometimes when they're home and we're going to go somewhere, I'll toss them the keys. Me throwing them the keys at that point doesn't mean I'm mad at them. They understand it means they're driving. When Jesus said, I give you the keys to the kingdom, he said that the ecclesia is driving. He said, whatever you bind, heaven will bind. Whatever you loose, heaven will loose. Let me use a different term that would fit the whole concept of the called out to vote. Whatever you forbid, and some translations use this phrase, whatever you forbid, heaven will forbid. Whatever you permit or whatever you allow, heaven will allow. See, so much teaching today is, well, I don't know why God's allowing this. God is allowing this. No, Jesus said we got the keys. He said whatever you allow, whatever you forbid. Heaven is waiting for his ecclesia to act. Heaven's waiting for its ecclesia to act. Now, this is not in some military fashion. We're not to the military phase of the kingdom yet. That is coming, though. But we won't be leading that charge. None of us will. Jesus will be leading the charge on his white horse when he comes back, and he'll face the Antichrist, and then he will, in a militaristic way, he will take over the earth. He will defeat the armies of this earth, and he will be seated on the throne of David in Jerusalem. But right now, during this day and time, we are in a diplomatic phase. We are not in a military phase. We're in a diplomatic phase, which is why the Apostle Paul said we are ambassadors for God. We are ambassadors of Christ, beseeching people to be reconciled to God. We're asking individuals to be reconciled to God. We should be asking nations. Ambassadors are sent to nations. They interact with people, but their assignment is the nation. What is happening in the nation? So you have an assignment to reach individuals, but you also have an assignment for this nation because you are an ambassador. And if you look up what an ambassador is, you're to represent your home country on all issues. All issues. Not just the ones you like, but all issues. You're to represent your home country. Heaven is our home. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, to be at home with the Lord. Heaven's our home in that sense. We're to represent the kingdom of God. We're to be engaged in binding and loosing because we got the keys. You see, keys lock and unlock. You've got the keys. Whatever you lock will be locked. Whatever you unlock will be unlocked. See, so often we look at the state of our country and wonder why. Why would God allow this? I think God's up in heaven going, I gave you the keys. Why are you allowing it? What are you doing? You're my ecclesia. Get with me about the plan. Ecclesias are supposed to develop plans and policies and implement them. And God's warning us to get with him and to implement his plans and his policies, because he's not willing that any should perish, but all should come to the knowledge of the truth. And it's not just to the knowledge of the truth in salvation. It's to the knowledge of all of his truth, how to live life, how to conduct life. God directs his word and his instructions to all aspects of life. He wants us to come to know Jesus and to implement truth in every area of life. The gates are where the decisions are made. that determines what will be implemented, what will happen. And he basically says hell has an agenda, but so does Jesus. That's why he built an ecclesia. He has an agenda. He has some policies. He has a plan. And he gave us the keys. My question would be, where are we driving us? Where are we driving to? What road have we chosen to go down? Are we just leaving the car parked in the garage? In all honesty, the church is very much of a sleeping giant. And Paul told us to awake, to not sleep. The church is a sleeping giant. We're leaving the car parked in the garage. We're either that or sometimes we've driven down the wrong way. God knows that the church has made enough mistakes, has had a negative impact at times on society. That's not his plan, but it's where people have taken it sometimes. But where are we taking it? Where are we driving to? I want to go to a place where God is honored. I want to live in a country that everybody's free to choose who they will worship. But I also want to live in a place that a whole lot of people do honor God, and that people live moral lives, that people do unto others as they would have done unto them. See, there was a day and time in our country that even people who were not Christians didn't go to church. Somebody could ask them, what do you base your life on? What values do you live by? Well, I live by the golden rule. Well, where did that come from? It came from Jesus. I just believe you ought to treat other people the way you want to be treated. You see, from that standpoint, starting with our founding fathers, there was information put into our country that caused people to live a life that God would want them to live. Not that it was perfect or anything like that. Don't misunderstand me. But we're in a world today, it's everybody's got their own truth. Everybody's just following this and doing what they want to do. And it's more self-oriented than anything. It's selfish. As Paul said, lovers of themselves rather than lovers of God. And you see, I'd like to be in a different place than that. I don't plan on moving. But you see, God has a plan. God has a plan. And I encourage you to join us regularly, to learn these ecclesia principles as we go through here, so that you can learn how you can take the keys that he's given you. Begin to lock up some things that need to be locked up, and unlock some things that need to be unlocked. God bless you. Join us again next time.
You've been listening to Ecclesia Principles with Ray Eppard. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook at Liberty Justice HQ and online at libertyjusticehq.com. This program was brought to you by Victory Worship Center. Services Sunday at 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock a.m., 200 Hammond Lane, Stanton, Virginia.